All right, let's jump right in. Today's explainer is a big one. The Supergirl postmortem, anatomy of a cinematic universe crisis. I mean, everyone in the superhero fandom is asking the exact same question right now. After this latest release, is the new DCU already heading for yet another reboot? Let's dive into the source material and figure out exactly what went wrong. $100 million. Let that number just sink in for a second. According to industry estimates, that is the staggering financial crater Warner Bros. Is potentially facing from the new Supergirl movie. Obviously, this is not just a little bump in the road, it's a massive financial hit. But, as we actually dig into the data, it becomes incredibly clear that the money is really just the tip of the iceberg here. The real problems are bubbling just under the surface.
Which brings us to a much, much bigger question. Is the new DC universe already doomed? Look, when the second film of a multi-billion-dollar reboot gets outright rejected by audiences, you don't just question the movie anymore. You start questioning the survival of the entire universe itself. Viewers start wondering, hey, is it actually worth my time and my emotional investment to care about this world? Or are they just going to hit the reset button again in a couple of years?
So, to really understand how we arrived at this existential crisis, we have to look at those opening numbers. Supergirl earned a pretty dismal $37 million in its opening weekend. Keep in mind, this is against a production budget of around $80 million. And worldwide, the collection has totally stalled out right around the $100 million mark. For a major superhero tentpole, one that's supposed to be a foundational building block for this whole new era, these numbers are, well, they're undeniably catastrophic.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how tough the situation is. Let's look at the comparisons. Supergirl's $37 million opening was actually outpaced by Morbius, which opened at $39 million. Yeah, it is literally never a good sign for your grand cinematic universe when you're trailing the vampire movie that everyone watched ironically. When your major new DC hero is being beaten by one of the most infamously memed movies of the last decade, I mean, that really cements the sheer severity of this flop.
So, diving a bit deeper here, the root problem isn't just superhero fatigue or even just one isolated weak movie. The real casualty is audience trust. That is the hard-earned belief from fans that a universe is actually worth their long-term emotional and financial investment. The new Superman movie actually gave the DCU a fairly decent start. Fans started thinking, okay, DC is finally heading in the right direction. But then, almost immediately, Supergirl arrived and completely shook that newly formed trust to its core. And honestly, we really can't blame casual audiences for being so cautious. I mean, over the last 15 years, there's been an absolute marathon of confusion. DC has changed direction so many times, it's exhausting just trying to keep track. We had the Snyderverse, then completely separate standalone Batman films, a totally isolated Joker universe, plus multiple announcements of reboots. After a decade and a half of disjointed projects and completely broken continuity, it's incredibly difficult for the average moviegoer to know what's connected and what isn't. Okay, let's dive into this, because the analysis identifies this as a vision crisis. There is a massive difference between having a roadmap and having a vision. The Marvel Cinematic Universe had a vision. They showed us the roadmap, sure, but they also explicitly showed us the destination with the Avengers and Thanos. The current DCU, on the other hand, it only has a roadmap. They have a list of upcoming projects, but no clear end goal. Audiences see these movies coming, but they have absolutely no idea what final destination they're building toward.
So why does that destination matter so much? Well, because a clear destination makes audiences support even the average movies just to continue the journey. Think about Marvel's Infinity Saga for a second. They teased Thanos and the Infinity Stones super early on. Because of that established trust and sheer curiosity, even an average movie like Captain Marvel was able to cross $1 billion at the box office. People weren't just buying a ticket for one standalone movie, they were buying a ticket to continue the journey to Endgame. Right now, that overarching motivation, it's entirely missing in the DCU.
Which brings us to a really specific promise made by the new studio leadership early on. Studio head James Gunn stated, "We will only greenlight projects with genuinely ready scripts." It was a pledge of strict quality control, right? It was meant to signal to all those weary fans out there that the dark days of rushing half-baked movies into production were finally over.
But when we actually look at the final product, it naturally raises a million-dollar question. So what exactly happens to that promised quality control with Supergirl's screenplay? Look, being a highly talented writer and director, which James Gunn has absolutely proven to be many times over, is very different from being a studio head. Because a studio head is responsible for maintaining the quality and consistency of an entire interconnected cinematic universe. When we break down the execution failures of the film itself, the details are pretty glaring.
While some critics definitely praised the lead's performance, the overall execution just fell flat. The villain felt like a generic CGI afterthought rather than a genuine threat, and the whole story severely lacked that epic, blockbuster scale. Plus, the marketing completely failed to generate FOMO, fear of missing out. And here's the thing. If fans don't feel like a movie is a must-see puzzle piece that's absolutely essential for understanding the wider universe, they're just gonna wait for it to stream.
And this all ties into a fundamental rule of universe building, which directly explains why your enjoyment as a viewer actually hinges on corporate strategy. Think of it like constructing a house. Step 1, you have to establish your strongest foundational pillars first. For DC, that's the Trinity of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Step 2, you use those iconic heroes to build unshakable audience trust. Only then do you move to Step 3, introducing the more niche characters like Supergirl, Swamp Thing, or the Authority. If a studio skips Step 1 and jumps straight to niche characters for their second movie, that foundation is going to crumble. It just leaves audiences confused and uninvested. This strategic misstep is just glaringly obvious when we look at the direct comparisons. Marvel exercised immense patience in Phase 1. They really took the time to establish Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. It was only after they had fully earned the audience's trust that they took a massive, weird risk with Guardians of the Galaxy. The DCU, however, they started with Superman and then immediately rushed right into Supergirl. It was simply the wrong choice for such a crucial second theatrical slot. So, what does the path to survival actually look like from here? Well, the next few projects are crucial lifelines. First up on the timeline is Clayface, a lower-budget, $40 million horror film. Now, because of its budget and genre, it has a pretty high chance of being profitable. But a horror movie isn't going to establish the face of the DCU. That is exactly why the next points, Lanterns and Man of Tomorrow, are absolutely vital. These projects must not only be massive hits, they have to show audiences exactly what direction the overall story is heading before we hit the end of 2027. That is the ultimate make-or-break deadline where the success or failure of this entire universe will become undeniably clear. So, what is the ultimate prescription for Warner Bros. Moving forward? First and foremost, do not panic and do not pivot. WB has a really long history of changing directions after a single failure, and they need to stop that right now. No more reboot announcements. They have to maintain the current roadmap, but they absolutely must drastically improve the execution quality and the narrative clarity. This failure, it's a warning, not a game over screen. It's a vital opportunity to learn.
Which leaves us with a final lingering thought to close out our explainer today. DC possesses some of the most iconic characters in human history. The characters aren't the problem here, the planning around them is. So will DC finally chart a crystal clear destination that actually makes audiences want to follow this journey? Or are we all just sitting around waiting for the next inevitable reboot? Let that sink in as you watch how this universe unfold over the next few years. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep your eyes peeled for how this massive cinematic gamble plays out.